Carey, thank you so much for meeting with us today.
Pleasure.
Could you talk a little bit about how you became a performer in Cavalia?
I started as a dancer originally, and I had done a good amount of acrobatics, and they needed a dancer that they could throw up in the bungees over here. So they did some tests, and one of the old trainers remembered me, and he's like, I think she'd be game. And it was mostly that factor that brought me here, the fact that I was willing to learn. There's a lot of adapting. They taught me the aerialist arts, but at the same time I'm dancing in sand, so it's a different platform, and I think it just takes a certain personality of people who are willing to commit to the show itself and not necessarily just their art.
So is it a combination of dancing and acrobatics?
Yes, and the main thing that was integrated into my training was liberty with a horse. So a horse that's unbridled and completely free. And they taught me how to work with a horse, how to dance with a horse and communicate via body language and different tools that we use that are very basic, very intuitional and based on energy and just simple placement, which is really interesting to add to my training.
Are the horses, how many hours a day would you say you work with the horse?
A horse in general, individually, will maybe work up till 2, no more. Usually it'll just be a good warm-up, go through the movements. If they have to add a new trick, that's when they'll add training, but it might be a half an hour, 20 minutes if he's tired, just to warm him up properly so he can perform safely. Otherwise, sometimes they'll add on, but individually the horses aren't worked so much. It's usually the acrobats and riders and us who train on different horses in order to prepare for the show.
It's amazing all the things that the horses do. Why do they do it? Do they do it because they're trained to do it? Do they like to do it? Or?
I think there's a certain part that's personality as well with the horses. You can tell that a lot of them are inbred performers, and they do it for the show. They do it for the presentation a lot. So they seem to grasp the concept, and it's a really fun thing to see when they'll do a reverence and then look to the crowd to get that little applause. So they work quite hard, but at the same time I think they know in what direction they're working because they're really outside of their element. Horses being an animal of flight and having girls coming down from the ceiling in front of them, all around them. It takes some time and a very gradual ease into it, adaptation, but they adapt really well and I think they know what they're doing out here.
And you think they actually enjoy it?
Oh yes, definitely. We've had a horse before, one of our main stars, that decided to retire, give him a nice life on a ranch in California, and he actually was so unhappy that they had to bring him back on tour just so he could have a purpose.
Do they reward them with food too? Do you give them treats?
We give them treats. We also do a lot of positive reinforcement so that they feel reassured. It's also a lot about feeling reassured for the horse. So already if you're clear and firm in your actions, then they'll feel at ease in what they're doing. And then we reward them with treats or just free time, play, and things.
Do they ever have a bad day where they're acting up?
Oh sure, they have many a day, and they're a lot like children in that aspect. How they're feeling, they'll just wear it on their sleeve. And sometimes the horse I'm dancing with will be a little bit lazy, and he'll be like, you know what, I don't feel like it. And sometimes he'll come out with so much energy that I have to calm him down. So it's really a day-to-day work in the moment.
Are injuries very frequent?
They're not very frequent since it's a very consistent show and we run on a very consistent basis. So there's not usually too many new elements that can be integrated that take you outside of your comfort zone. But they do occur as in any show. Some people decide to work through them, some people take a break. It really depends on the gravity and the personality of the individual. But it's something we all are used to living with.
How often are you on the road and how much time do you actually spend in Canada? Are you away from Canada?
We did 10 weeks in Montreal recently. It kind of varies. Now we're on more of an American tour. And usually we stay 6 weeks in a city, and Atlanta has been very kind to us. We're going to be here extended over till 10 weeks in all.
And you said you went to Europe for 2 years as well?
We went to Europe for 2 years. We did Belgium, Germany, and a little bit here and there, Spain. It was a really interesting experience to see how they responded. And the horse is an important part of their culture, with their history, so it was really interesting to get the take of a different public.
How much time do you have off each year?
Well, the artists were pretty lucky. Every 6 weeks we have the option of taking 10 days off in between cities when they're moving this village. Otherwise, the technicians, that's when they usually work the hardest, so it can be a very complete full-time job. Most people get 1 break a year, maybe 2, and
So it's not like if you're filming a TV show where you have the entire summer off or anything
Oh
like
no.
that.
No, no, it's full time.
And it's pretty grueling too. I mean,
It can be, but at the same time, it puts you in better shape. So
Right.
you have a little bit more attack in your day to get at it. The show itself keeps you in shape.
how many shows on an average week would you do?
Normally we do 7.
Okay.
This week we're doing 8, same as last. Sometimes we'll do 6.
So you really don't get a day off then?
We have a Monday off.
Monday off?
We do a double show day.
Okay. For what is the next step for you, do you think, in your career? Will you continue working here? Is there any kind of time period usually that performers
Well,
will?
I've been here for nearly 3 years, and that's a really long time for most contracts for an artist. But at the same time, it's really hard to leave this show because we're very well encompassed, and you make a bond with the animals and the other people you work with. And afterwards, I could go into a more dancing direction, or who knows, maybe I'll get to work more with horses or even aerialists. It's introduced me to a lot of different elements that can take me down different paths. So,
Had you have any experience with horses before you started working here?
minor. I grew up in the country, so I had just friends who had them. We'd go trotting here and there, but no formal training really.
Do you, in your off time, do you ever go ride horses, or do you get enough here that you don't really need to?
Our off time is sometimes here as well. So our off time will just be when we don't have a practice. We always end up here anyway, and I'll ride for fun, or I'll do a bit of liberty for fun, not necessarily in the goal of putting it in the show, but just perfecting that bond.
Is there something about Canada, Quebec in particular, that there's a certain creative atmosphere that breeds more shows like this? Because I know you have Cirque du Soleil.
Yes, it would appear to be. In Quebec, there is a very creative vibe that goes on, and I don't know if it's the confinements of winter or of being, stuck among each other sometimes that bring us to go outside of our bubbles and outside of our usual thought patterns. But there's a really creative vibe, and Montreal especially has just a lot of arts and a very open feel about fusions and different things. I remember there was a lot of like flamenco breakdance fusions. It was just an open vibe that ended up creating a very unique shows, and there's a public for it, so they can stage them.
What are your impressions of Atlanta?
I really like this city. It's friendly, it's very big, but at the same time it's warm, and you can feel the people are true when they talk to you, which is nice. And I'm just enjoying exploring it. I haven't seen a lot of it yet, but it's a different geographic for me, so I'm just enjoying the discovery of it. So that's fun.